morning everyone. So in the last session we started about the introduction for this particular Spring framework here. So we discussed the basic example on this particular Spring framework here. Now what are the classes we created here? If we go to the particular interface called greeting service. So what exactly the greeting service is doing now? Here we have one method called say greeting, and this particular method we implemented under this particular greeting service API. And here, so which constructor we use to provide the particular greeting value. So this is the constructor we implemented to work with this particular greeting. Okay, to work with this particular greeting. Now, so what we need to understand here, the another important section. So we are using the constructor to initialize the value of this particular property. Okay, now here, so I don't want to use this particular constructor. I don't want to use this particular constructor. So using the method is there a way to initialize the property. This is important here. Now what we are doing here? If you go to the string.xml, here what is the property we are calling here? So constructor arg. So constructor arg is nothing but it is trying to initialize the value of this particular constructor arg. Okay. Now I don't want to use this particular constructor. I don't want to use this particular constructor. So without using the constructor, is there any way to implement is there a way to initialize the property of this particular greeting? So let's say if I'm trying to run this example, now what happens? If I'm trying to run this example, what happens? So whether we'll get the same error message or so we get the same welcome message or we will say exception. Now if you see here, we are getting an exception. So what is saying is, can read this particular exception is in loading an XML being definition. So this is the part of the XML. Now, by loading this particular XML, what we got here, we got an exception. So what is the name of the exception we are getting here? So something like being creation exception. Something like being creation exception. So what's saying this error message? Error creating a bean with the name called greeting service, and what's saying here? The greeting service is defined under this particular string.xml, so could not resolve the matching constructor. Could not resolve the matching constructor. So why it is not able to resolve it? Because what we did here we commented the constructor. Okay, here we commented the constructor. But still in the string.xml, what we are doing is, here we are trying to use the constructor object. Here we are trying to use the constructor object. So basically, so when we can go for this particular constructor object, whenever we are having the constructor which is expecting the parameters. Here how many parameters we are passing? One parameter. How we can differentiate the parameters here? So you are going to pass out multiple constructors. Let's say the same constructor is expecting three parameters. So one parameter, second parameter, and third parameter. Like we can differentiate the parameters here. The current example, it is expecting only one parameter. It is expecting one parameter. So here I am passing the one parameter. But currently the one parameter constructor also I commented because I don't want to use the constructor to initialize this property. What is the property we are using? Greeting. Now what is the second way to use it? So using the setter method. Using the setter method. Now how we can set this particular value using the setter? Now here you can see what we are doing basically here. Here we are trying to set this particular method is used to set the value. Okay. Now here this is a method something like a say greeting. But now what is the method we want to use it? So public void set greeting, and this particular method is expecting the parameter called greeting here, and here what I'm doing here, so this dot greeting is equals to greeting. Now if you observe carefully what I'm doing here this method purpose is different, this method purpose is different. Okay, here we are doing the say greeting, like just we are trying to print whatever the message we are having. But here what I'm doing is, this particular method is used to set the property. whatever the property we are calling, like whatever the parameter value we are calling to this particular method, the same, the value we are trying to set into the class level variable. So that is called greeting. Like here we are having one is an instance level property, one is a local. Okay, so these are the properties we are having here. Now, so what exactly I am going to do now? So this constructor we commented. So I am planning to use, this is a method right now. If I want to use the method, the setup method, so what is the best approach here? Go to the string.xml and here comment out this particular constructor and enable this particular property. Okay, enable this particular property. But here, what are the changes we are doing here? So this is very important. Here, this is very important. Now, if you observe carefully, for the constructor, directly we are having the value. For the constructor, directly we are having the value. But the property, so what is the property we are providing? Greeting. Okay, we are providing the greeting. So now here, I am trying to provide the value here. This is the value we are trying to initialize in this particular parameter. So this particular, the parameter, it is going to hold the value for welcome to string. Welcome to string. Now I am saying this. Now go to the main method, run the same example. Now run the same example. Now here you can see what we are having, welcome to string. Where we provided this particular message, we provided the message under this particular property. Under this particular property. Now what exactly the property is doing now? So it is going to do the object creation like this. This particular object, it is going to do the creation like this. So here, what I will do, we will create object like this, greeting service INC. Okay, it will create object like this, greeting service INC. This is the reference variable, and we are using the new greeting service. So after this, now what we are going to do now? Greeting service dot set greeting. And what is the message we are passing here? So something like this. Welcome to string. Welcome to string. Now if you observe carefully, earlier when we are using the constructor, what we are doing directly? So directly this particular message, it is going to pass to this particular constructor. Directly the message, it is going to pass to the constructor. But when we are using the property, okay, when we are using this particular property, what exactly the container it will do internally? So first it will create an object here and it will try to call the method. It will try to call the method. Whatever the property value we provided, the value it is going to pass as a method parameter. The value it is going to pass as a method parameter. Okay. So this is, it is not going to be used when we are trying to work with the property, but only when we are using the constructor as a property, then it will try to execute the constructor. So it will execute the specified constructor. The constructor, it is having more than one parameter, so we need to define the multiple constructors. So we'll see whenever we are having multiple parameters, how we can work on this particular example. But currently, what we observe here, whenever we are trying to create an object, if you are interested to use the constructor, you can specify the constructor property. If you are not interested to use the constructor, you can go for this particular property. Okay. So using the either constructor or the property, they are going to set the value. So currently, in the previous example, we discussed about the constructor, and the current example, we are trying to use this particular property. So set greeting, and we have set the value, and finally we got this particular value. Welcome to Spring Boot. So any questions on this? Okay. So now another important section. So what exactly this property is doing now? What exactly this particular property tag it is going to do now. So basically, with this particular property, it is going to tell the container. So you can call the set related method. Set related method. So which method we are going to call? Here we are providing the property called greeting. So container, internally it will call the set greeting. Internally it will call this particular set greeting. So let's say if I am going to provide set greeting 123. Set greeting 123. Now I am going to run the same example. Now I am going to run this particular example. So now if you see, so why we are getting this exception? Why we are getting this type of exception? Because whatever the property we provided, it is not available. I can see read this particular class of that. But saying it, so invalid property greeting of the bean class com.greeting service IMP, the bean property is whatever the property we provided greeting, so it is not writable or as an invalid setup method. So container now unable to find the setup method with the help of this particular name called greeting. Getting it? We have a particular method called greeting 123 we provided, but here the container what is expecting it? It is expecting something like a bean property greeting. Okay, so this is the differences when we are trying to provide the property like the particular setter method with a different name, we'll get this type of exception. So we need to follow the same naming convention. Whatever the properties we are providing here, so it should be the same of the particular method also. Then only the method it is going to call automatically. Because normal Java application, so if I want to call this particular method, normally what we will do, we'll create an object of this particular greeting service enter, and with help of this particular reference, we will call this particular method. But currently if you see, what we are doing here, we are not creating an object of this particular greeting service. Directly we are calling the say greeting. So this is a different method we are calling. This is the say greeting we are calling. To print is the greeting message. But this message, like this method, we are not calling. This method we are not calling. So this method it is going to call automatically when we are trying to provide the specified property language. Okay. Now we understand if you are interested to initialize the value with the help of the constructor, you can work with the constructor all. And if you are interested to work with the setup method, then you can go for this particular property. So these are the two important properties we discussed. Within this particular bean only, we need to define it. So that the respective bean object it will create, and while creating, it will try to initialize the respective information. So this is what we need to understand, how we can use this property and when we can go for this particular constructor. Okay. So now another important section we need to understand is something like dependency injection. So what exactly the dependency injection is going to provide. So to understand this particular dependency injection, what we can do. So basically, the dependency injection internally will call we'll try to call another important name called inversion of control. So we'll call it as a IOC. Okay, inversion of control. So what exactly the inversion of control will do now? So whenever we are having two or more classes, so those classes are going to collaborate the functionality each other. So to execute the respective business model. So basically, I created, let's understand the simple scenario. I'm having around three classes. So this is a business logic. Now these three classes basically it is trying to execute in the same business logic. And internally it will try to collaborate the particular business logic. Now what exactly we are doing here? These are the classes are internally it is going to depend with each other. Internally it is going to depend on each other. Okay, so to perform this particular business logic. So what exactly it is going to happen now? So to understand a little bit more here, so this is one example called bar. Okay, so this is the one bar class here, and one more class I'm trying to provide something like budge class, and the last class 4. So now if you observe, this class is depending on this particular class, and at the same time this particular class also now it is depending on this particular code. Okay, so these two classes now it is depending on this particular core class to execute the respective business class, to execute the business process. Now here, whenever we are applying this particular dependency injection, now whatever the object we are trying to give, so those dependency are basically at the time of creation. So we need to provide the dependent object information, because so these objects currently the bar and the word it is depending on this particular code. When we are trying to create this particular bar and when we are trying to create this particular word object, so we should create an object of this particular code. We need to create this particular object. Even if you are not interested to use this particular object also, we need to create, because these two classes are depending on this particular code class. These two classes are depending on this particular code class. So this is what we need to understand here. Now, so what are the depending in what are the different type of dependency injection we are having here? So mainly the main benefit we are going to get when we are trying to work with this particular dependency, that is called use coupling. But currently, so even though if it is not used by this particular ball, but still we are trying to create object of this particular code. So in that case, we'll call it as a tightly coupled. Okay, so we'll call it as a tightly coupled. So but here what we are expecting with help of this particular dependency injection, we'll get the loose coupling. We'll get the loose coupling. So this is what we need to understand here. So let's have a simple example from this particular dependency injection. Now we'll understand what exactly the dependency injection will be. So mainly if we want to get the dependency injection in terms of this particular loose coupling here, we can go for this particular interface and implementation class. Interface and implementation class. Okay. The simple example, now what I will do, let's create a package here. So something like so now I'm trying to go for this particular dependency. So that is called DI. I given the DI package here. Now under this particular DI package, I'm trying to create a one class. So something like so I'm trying to create a one class called exam hall. Okay. So I'm trying to create a one class called example. Now here, what I'm doing is here I'm trying to create a private string name. So something like so example. Okay. And here another important section. So what I'm trying to create is, so I'm going to create a one more class called so question paper. Okay. So simply I'm trying to create a question paper. Now I need to create an object of this particular question paper. So I'm going to create an object of this particular question paper. So this is the way I'm trying to create a question paper. Okay. So now we have the exam one. It contains the name of the exam, and as well as whatever the question paper. But and here what I'm trying to do here, I'm trying to call the constructor of this particular exam hall. I'm trying to call the exam hall constructor, and by providing this particular exam name, so this the exam name is equals to exam name. And here what I'm doing here, the second property question paper is equals to new question paper. Okay. So you need to understand the important information here. What first property we are trying to pass to the parameter of this particular constructor, and the second whatever the property we declare, it is an object type. So what we are doing is we are trying to create an object. We are trying to create an object. Now here what I will do, here I am going to call the one method. Here I am going to call this particular method called so public exam name, and here we can provide the method. It should be return the another object. I'm trying to return the exam, so something like simply I'm trying to call the performance. Okay, but here, so using this particular question paper, now I'm going to call the exam. Now I'm going to call the exam method. Okay, but here this exam method internally it will try to return the exam. So what is the exam we are going to do? Let me create an object of this. Okay, and so we keep as this is exam as of now. But internally, what I'm doing is under this particular question paper, so we are going to have a method called. Okay, and here no exam. So this is I'm trying to create. This is I'm trying to create. Now you can see. So this is very important here. Now under this particular exam all, we are having the name of the exam and we are trying to collect the question paper. So once we collect the particular question paper, we'll try to perform the exam. So whenever we are performing this particular exam, what happens basically, it will try to return the proper exam related information. Okay, so let's say here I want to, here I'm trying to call it this. So simply I'm providing the name. So this is the default constructor. So one more constructor I'm providing name. Okay, this is the name is equal to name. Okay, so this is what we need to understand. After this, we are calling the exam and question. Here we can call it to something like I'm trying to write the math related exam. Okay, so we observe this. But here the main important what we need to understand here. Now what exactly we are doing this? Here we are trying to work with this particular dependency injection by making the tight coupling. So here the question paper, what I'm doing here I'm trying to create object of this particular question paper. So when we are trying to create this particular question paper, it is a tight coupling. Okay, so as we discussed here, we cannot create an object manually. We cannot create an object here. So if we want to change this particular question paper, now what we can do? So we need to change this particular object here, and again we need to change this particular process this particular example. Now, so instead of writing this particular hard-coded, like instead of tightly coupling this particular object creation, now what we will do basically, we'll work with the interface. So let's say if I want to execute this, so if I want to print this particular, here we are trying to print this particular exam, right? So instead of, so this will try to return this particular performance example. So there we can write. Now, so create a main file. Okay, so dependency injection, main method. So when we are trying to work with this particular main method, what we can do, copy this line and modify as per our current example. Okay. Now here, so this is not needed. This is not needed. Like we are not working with the greetings. So we are working on the some exam related. Okay. So here, what we can provide here, something like exam hall. And using this particular exam hall, we can call the method called perform exam, and here we get the exam and this out the particular exam. Okay, so this is what we need to understand. And here, what we need to do, here what I'm doing here, so I'm trying to call the constructor, and here I'm going to generate the two things so that we can understand what is the particular message they are trying to do. So we observe this particular. So now here we need to update the particular bean. So how I am trying to update this particular bean properties. So to understand this particular bean properties, what we can do, comment out this. First comment out this particular bean is. Now try to create it one more thing. And ID, what is an ID I'm trying to provide in this? So this is an example on and here I want to provide the class. So what is the class we are having here? com.bi.exam hall. Okay, here we are trying to create exam. So after this, now what I am doing? Is I want to use the constructor. So what is the value we can provide here? What is the name of the exam? Okay. So instead of doing this, here only we provided the exam name. So directly we can print this particular exam now. Okay. So here only we can update this. The value, so something like to math. Okay. So constructor activity. Now, if I'm going to run this example, there is a particular, this is an example I want to run. Let's see what happens now. So here we are getting the particular exam called matching. How we are getting it? Here, what we did basically, so this is the property we are providing, and this is the hard-coded the particular object. This is the hard-coded object. But currently, what I'm doing here, so in place of this particular question paper, now if I change to the answer sheet, so something like answer related information. What happened here? So here also we need to change. Now, whenever we are changing the particular implementation class information, it should not affect any other location. But here, whenever I'm trying to change this particular declaration part here also we need to change. Because here what we are doing is we are trying to create objects of this particular question. So same example, now what I will do, here the same question paper, now I'm trying to create as an interface. So if you observe, now you'll understand the important information here. Interface I created. Okay, interface I created. So what I'm doing here, simply I'm trying to declare this particular method. So if you observe carefully, here no need to provide this particular object creation. So what we can do here, provide the question paper, and this dot. So question paper is equals to question paper. This is not question paper is equals to. So this is a question paper. Now here you can see still we are able to call this particular exam. Now what is the second step I am going to do now? What is the second step I'm going to do now? Here if you observe, I need to implement this particular class. So what is the class I'm trying to implement here? Question paper. Okay, and here, so it is going to implement from the question paper. So whenever it is implementing, we need to write the exam. Here, now what I'm doing is, now here I'm trying to create a new, so this type of question paper, here we can work on the math. Here we can work on the math. Now observe carefully. Now if you observe, so if you are trying to change the implementation, so where we are going to change the implementation now? Now where we are going to change the implementation, here you can see, so this is the exam hall, one constructor we are providing, and the second constructor we need to provide. The second constructor we need to provide. So it should not work with the value. It should work with the ref here. So why we are providing the ref? Because here we are trying to work with one more object. Because if you see the exam hall, the first property, it is a string. You can work with the value. But the second parameter, it is not a value. It is an object type. It is an object type. Now what we need? We need to create an object. We need to create an object. So if we want to create object here, now what we can do? Provide the bean title. Bean ID, question paper, the class com dot di dot, so question paper ISO. Okay, so what is the reference I'm providing here? Here I'm going to give as a ID. Here I'm going to give as a ID. Now the same example, if you run here, the dependency injection demo, now we'll understand. Now, so still we are getting the same example. But currently if you observe, now I'm going to create a one more thing. Okay, so question paper 2 I'm trying to do. Instead of INTL maybe, okay. So I'm trying to implement the question paper 2, and here implement the question paper. Implement the question paper. Now I'm trying to provide this particular example, and here what I will do, new exam. So here you can go for the English. Now I want to change it. Get in the point. Now I want to change. If you observe carefully, so I want to print English. So I'm planning to write exams on English. So what we need to do now? What are the changes we need to do? Only one change we need to do. Only one change. So where we need to change it, the particular change, here only we can change. So this is the one bean ID we created here. The second one, here I'm trying to create here. So let's change the question paper 2. Okay, so now what I'm doing is I'm trying to comment on this, because we need to provide the whatever the newly implementation class are. So this is the one change I'm doing. Other than this, I'm not going to do any other changes. So simply I'm running the same example. Now we are getting English. So earlier we got as a math, but currently we are getting as a English. If you see this example hall structure, we are not changing. Getting the point. So when we are trying to work with the interface here, so you can work with the loose coupling. But how we are making it? Here we given the interface, because the question paper, it is an interface. It is not a class. So for this interface, what we did, just we provided the parameter, and we did the local variable initializing into the class level variable. So after that, this particular perform example method we are keeping as it is, and only the class, whatever the class we want to implement from this particular question paper, we implemented, and we change the name of the exam. Okay, the name of the exam, and we are able to see the different exams. Okay, so is it understanding it? So instead of directly creating object here, So you can work with this particular question paper. Question paper means it is an interface type. So even though if we are trying to change the object here in this particular beam, in the configuration level only we are changing. But the particular Java code we are not touching anything. The structure, whatever the structure we created, we are keeping it. So this is what the main important information regarding this particular dependency injection. Okay. So is it clear? So still any questions?
Hello. Yeah, my name is Monica. Actually, this is my second class, but I am not understanding anything because I don't know the core Java.
Okay.
So, is it possible to take the core Java sessions again because I'm not understanding this concept?
So can you please go through the recorded sessions I already given?
Okay.
So I can find out the link in the respective WhatsApp group. You can review the core Java recorded session. So then only you will understand the Spring related course.
Okay.
Okay. So now here another important section we need to understand here. The dependency injection, we are going to have two types of dependency injection. One is a setter based dependency injection and another one is a constructor based dependency injection. So now currently whatever the example we discussed here, so this is the constructor based dependency injection. Getting that. So let's say if I am not providing here. So here I am providing this particular the two parameters here, but these two parameter information I am not interested to provide. For example, the second parameter I am not interested. So here you can see. So here we are getting an error here. So here only we are getting an error. So here it's saying the exam hall is expecting two parameters. We are not providing the respect to two parameters. But here, so forcefully saying, so you need to provide the two parameters. So now what you understand is, whenever we want to work with the constructor injection, so we need to check here. So it is a dependent object here. Because for the mandatory purpose we can go to the constructor injection. For all the optional purpose we can go for this particular setter. So how we are going to provide this particular setter here? So you can type the respective question paper. How we can type the question paper here? So simply whatever we discuss here, greeting service cancel. So same this is a setter related. You can create a setter method and you can initialize the value and you can call the respective setter. But it is the option. Why I am saying the option? Once the object is created, the next step we are going to call this particular method. The next step we are going to call this particular method. But here, while creating an object, because if I am trying to create an exam hall, now normally what we will do, we'll call the constructor. We'll call the constructor. So whenever we are trying to call the constructor, what we will do? So if the constructor is expecting any parameter, we'll provide the constructor parameter. Now without providing the constructor parameter, we cannot create an object of this particular class. Okay. So because of this, now we are calling as a mandatory. So whenever we want to work with the dependency object as mandatory dependency object, then we can work with the constructor based. Otherwise, we can go for the setter based. The setter based basically, after creating an object, we are going to call the methods. So this is the two types of dependency injection we are having under this particular thing. Okay. So this is what we need to understand regarding this particular dependency injection. So we'll see more and more examples on this particular dependency injection in our upcoming classes. So this is the observed here, and okay, let's have a property related example also so that we are clear on this. Let me create the property called public void set question paper. Okay, so set question paper I'm trying to provide in here, and so keep this particular parameter question paper here. This dot question paper is equal to, and the second one. So if you are interested to work with the exam, but as of now we are not going to use this particular exam. So we can comment out this part. Okay, so what I'm doing here, I'm going to work with the default concept. Okay, I'm going to work with this particular default concept, the default construct of this particular example. Now, what we can do, go to this particular string.xml, so comment out these two. Okay, comment out these two, and here, so provide the property, the name for question paper, and we can go for the rest, so something like a question paper. Okay, so this particular property, now it is matching to this particular property. So now it is matching to this particular property. And the second one reference is this particular reference, now it is matching to this particular name. Okay, so don't confuse it. And whenever we are providing the reference here, the reference and ID should be matched. Reference and ID should be matched, and the name of the property and wherever we declare the particular property, it should match. Okay, so this is the way we can provide the reference of the particular property. Now this we are trying to execute the setter dependency injection. So again, we got the index. Now if you see here, we are not calling this particular example correctly. So if you understand whether we are calling the example or not, what we can do, print the statement. Print the statement. Exam hall. Okay, parameter constructor. And the same one I'm trying to provide here inside the default. Default constructor. Now go to the same demo example. Now I can run. Okay, so now you can see we are calling on the default constructor. Getting it? So now you understand it. This particular constructor, it is not calling. Only this is a constructor it is calling, and after that we are calling this particular the method here and we are executing. So to understand this, now you will understand here really the set question paper method it is calling or not. Really the set method it is calling on. So right? Now go to the same demo example. Now run this example. Now you can see exam hall default constructor. After that, the set question paper the method is calling, and the println method. Because here we are calling the exam we are trying to do. So because of this, the last println statement it is empty. Okay. So this is the way we can work with the certain dependency injection as well as constructor dependency injection. So these are the important information we need to understand regarding this particular dependency injection. Okay. So I hope is it clear? So still any questions? Okay. The same example, if you are interested to implement the real-time application, if you are trying to work with a real-time application, now what we can do? So simply, for example, so this is a checkout register. Whenever we are trying to work with e-commerce application, so we'll try to define the checkout functionality, because so when we are going to check out here, once the particular order is confirmed, now we'll do the checkout here. Now here, so it may be a dependence on this particular tool. So in that case, what we can do, the checkout related information we can define as an interface, and we can implement under this particular order service. So here also we are going to have the dependency injection. So same way, you can think of where exactly you can write it. Like if you work with the banking application, so saving account or current account, whenever we are doing the transaction, whenever we are doing the deposit amount or withdrawal amount. Okay, So in that case also this particular dependency injection is going to be implemented. Okay, so these are the some real-time examples. So where exactly the dependency injection is going to be suitable. Now after that, now what we will do here, we'll try to work with so how exactly the beans are going to be created and how the beans are going to be managed. Now if you observe carefully, in the study session we already discussed it, these beans are created, managed and configured by the container. Okay, so what is the container we are using here? Now here we are trying to work with this particular bean factory. Bean factory is one of the thing I was container. And here, so we are going to have different type of container objects. First we'll work with the bean factory and later we'll go for the application context. Application context is also one more container object. But here, so what we are doing is everything, even if you're working with the bean factory or if you're trying to work with application context, the objects, the objects creation, manage and complete this particular life cycle, everything it is going to taken care by the container. Life cycle means from the creation of this particular objective and up to the destroying the particular object, everything it is going to manage by the container. Okay, and here, so what you are understanding is everything it is going to taken care by this particular object. But whenever we are trying to work with this particular the container, so what we need to use is the container internally it is going to use the dependency injection to manage this particular object. To manage the particular object. Okay, so in that we already identified the bean factory, and as you know, bean factory basically it is an interface. So if you observe, yesterday also we already discussed it, public interface bean factory. Whenever we are having an interface, so we cannot create an object of this particular interface. What we can do, we need to work with the implementation class. Okay, we need to work with this particular implementation. So inside this particular implementation, the first one we are working on the XML factory. So why we are getting this particular deprecation? Because the Java we are working on the 11 and the Spring we are working on the C version. Because of that, it is the deprecated. Okay, so we'll see the latest version example here later, but we need to understand from initial version what are the steps are implemented under this particular Spring framework. Okay, so here, so we observe the XML bean factory, and what are the other implementation classes we are having for this particular bean factory. Okay, second one is class path related. Okay, so now let's work with this particular new class here. Bean factory here we are having. Now you can see here we can go for this particular. Here you can see XML bean factory we use here, and we need to work on the another important call. So you can see the class path XML application context. Class path XML application context. Now here you can see one more, we will see the file system XML application context. Okay, so these are the different classes are implemented here, but mainly we'll work on these two classes. Either we can go for the class path and otherwise we can go for this particular file system. But now to work on this particular the XML and the class path and file system, now what we need to understand here, so we need to understand the application context. We need to understand this particular application context. So why we need to understand this particular application context here? Because the application context internally, it is extend from this particular bean factory. It is extend from this particular bean factory. So here I'm trying to write here application context and the application context. So what we can do? What we can do is we need to work on the two important classes. So first one is class path of XML application context, and second one is file system. Because in the previous example we discussed a file system. So same example now I am using file system XML application context. Okay. Now, so what is expecting here? So here it is expecting the path. Here it is expecting the path. Now if you observe, directly we are providing the path. Directly we are providing this particular path. So let me go to the second line here so that we can easily understand. Application context I'm providing, and this is the implementation class, and here internally it is not expecting any resource. Internally it is not expecting any resource. Directly we can provide the path. Okay, once we provided the path. So what I'm doing here, application context dot get bean. Okay, so what is the bean we are working currently? Exam R. Okay, here we are working on this particular exam R. So what is the object there? Now what we can do? We need to typecast, because this get bean basically it will try to provide as a object type. It will provide as a object. Now what we can do? Convert into our object type. So simply I'm converting into this, and after that I'm going to call this particular performance. Okay, I'm going to call this particular performance. So now you can see the same example. Whatever we discussed with the bean factory, now I'm trying to run with the application context. I'm trying to run with the application context. So what we are getting here? Okay, so something like okay, sorry. Okay, so this is the name of the bean I given different here. Now you can see the same information. Okay, the same information now we are getting it. So this is also another important here. The first one we observe the bean factory. It is one of the container. Application context is also another container. But what is the difference here? Now if you observe the application context, internally it is extending from the bean factory. Okay, so now you can see listable bean factory, and it is extending from the bean factory. But if you go to the application context here, so this is also interface, and it is extending from this particular listable bean factory, and the listable bean factory internally it is extending from the bean factory. So finally, application context internally it is extending from the bean factory. Okay, so this is what we need to understand here. Now, yesterday we discussed here, so application context it is going to have some additional advantage we are going to get compared to the bean factory. So we'll see that. So what are the advantages we are going to get? Okay, so simple example we understand. The first one is file system, and the second one, what are the one more implementation classes? Another one is class for XML application context. Okay, so to understand this, now what we can do, here only I'm trying to write the same example here. Let me comment out this part. Okay, and change the class for XML application context here. But here, where this particular XML context, string.xml file is available. Let's see, it's going to run, or we may get an exception called file not found. So now you can see file not found exception we are getting it, because here we need to provide only this specific file. Only we need to specify the file, not the full path. But still, so it is unable to find this particular class path. So where we created this particular file, under the source only. Now what I will do, I will go to this particular is not opening. So basically the structure, whatever the structure we are calling, so the structure it is not the correct one. So we'll see this particular class path. Basically we need a resource file, so there we can create this particular string.xml. So that we can discuss here mainly. So within this particular source directory, what are the files we want to load, we can give this particular class path XML application context. But currently we'll work on this particular file system, because we are not following the proper structure of this particular project. Okay, so we'll see this particular information in our upcoming classes, what exactly we can work with this particular class path XML application context. But currently Now what I'm doing is I'm trying to work with the XML application context only. So we'll see this. So this is a one more implementation class. One is a file system. Second one is application context. Third one is web XML. So this is when you're trying to work with the MVC related application. So there we'll use this uh, web XML. To work like this only. Then only we'll get the implementation classes here. Where is that XML? Okay, not in this class for XML application context here. XML web application. So maybe it is duplicated. XML file system. Where is the third class? Okay. So maybe it is not available here, but this is the class XML web application. So this is video here. Okay. Okay. So this is the class. So I will review this why it is not coming here. Web application context. It should available basically. Okay. So anyway, now let me go to the file system here. Now we'll see in the which part it is coming is. Here we are having support the file system. Okay. Maybe it is removed from this particular part here. Only two classes we are having. One is a class for XML application context. Second one is file system. So the XML related part maybe it is removed because of that it is not available. Okay, but we can understand it. These are the three implementations. So currently I think we can work on the two implementations. One is the file system, second one is the class part. So this is another important example on this particular bean factory. Now, so what exactly we'll do now? Here we'll try to figure it out the bean life cycle. Here we observe the beans are going to create it, manage it, everything by the container. But what exactly the container will do based on this particular bean object? Because here we are trying to provide the bean information under the XML file here. So this XML file, what exactly it will do after loading this particular container? Okay. So this information will try to continue in the tomorrow session. So this is we call it as a bean life cycle. And in the bean life cycle, what exactly how the beans are going to be created and what are the steps it is going to follow to create a bean shape. So this is the important concept we'll discuss in the tomorrow session. And once we completed it, so we'll try to perform the constructor related, structure related, we'll perform the example. And so we'll try to work on the bean properties, how we can inject the particular bean property. Okay. So tomorrow also it is an important example we are going to discuss regarding this particular bean related information. So still any questions regarding our today's session? Okay. So if not, now what I will do, so I'm giving this particular link here. Now you can access the source code of this particular project here. Now I'm going to commit the changes here. Okay, so greeting service, we discussed about the property related part. And what is another example we added? Demo.java, exam, and anything we are missing, question paper 2, question So these are the demo classes. Okay, so these are the and here what is the method we can write? What we discussed here, dependency injection. Dependency injection. Okay, string dependency injection. So now I am going to commit this changes. Okay, so these are the files that come in. Now, so these .java we are using. Okay, so this is related to the Spring project. Now, today I will work on the core Java related whatever we discussed here. So this particular core Java related example also I am trying to create a project here, and once the project is created, I will commit this changes here. So this particular changes also now I am going to commit here. This is contain lot of here, so I will modify. Okay, so these are the core Java related examples we discussed here. Let's run this simple example. So given the above, you can access this particular thing here. Okay, so this is the link for the Spring application. Now I'll give you the core Java. Let me hold 1 minute, where we can create this also. And here, core Java, and I'm going to create a repository. Okay, version control, repository core Java, the local file. We are having the file. All the .class files also present. So is there a way to select only the .class file? Okay, so some of the files I will select and I will commit here, and I will review this particular classes and I will commit the changes here. Okay, commit and committing this. So few of the files are committing. Okay, yeah, I will do that one and I will let you know. So I need to ignore this. So meanwhile, you can use these two. So these are the two repositories you can work on, the core Java and as well as the Spring related. Okay, so I need to commit a few of the files still here. I will commit and I will let you know. Okay, we'll continue tomorrow.